The itinerary on the website advertised that it would be a wonderful cruise, romantic, relaxing, divine food, interesting stops and amazing beaches along the way. Monica Blake had hoped it would rekindle their love and settle John's concern that she loved her work more than him. John had hoped she could and would prioritize their marriage for this short vacation which they so desperately needed. 9 days on a luxury cruise ship in the Western Caribbean, visiting Mexico, Belize, and Honduras. John paid to upgrade the cabin to a large suite, at least large by cruise ship standards. The suite had 2 separate rooms, a nice bedroom and also a nice sitting room with a large flat-screen TV in each. It was very much like a nice hotel room, which on a cruise ship is rare, indeed. It even had a balcony large enough for a small table, 2 chairs, and 2 chaise lounge chairs. The ship was amazing, as were the destinations. They were both eagerly anticipating the trip. At just 30 years old, Monica had rocketed up the corporate ladder. She was in investment banking and was now helping companies bring their bonds to market. Her manager, Linda, worked Monica, and others, hard, but as Linda was promoted, Monica would get promoted into Linda's vacated position. That had worked well for the tandem, with 3 promotions in the last 4 years each, but more hours at work meant fewer hours with her husband. 70-hour weeks for Monica were no longer uncommon. While Monica and John lived and worked in San Antonio, Texas, John worked in data science for a large consulting firm based in Austin, where he was raised and went to college. His firm didn't really care where he lived, as long as he had internet access and could travel several days each month. The past several months had seen him increase his travel to several days each week, occasionally not returning home until Saturday. When Monica complained, John's response was, "Why should I try to rush home if you aren't going to be here? Are you suggesting that I should hang around on the off chance that you might be available?" "But how can we spend time together if you aren't here?" she replied. John's response was, "I don't want to get into a fight, because we've had this discussion many times before. When you can answer that question yourself, then come ask me again." That conversation was a couple of months ago before John left for a work trip, which would keep him out of town for a full week. John felt like this upcoming vacation was their last chance to save what they had. His complaining about her work had obviously fallen on deaf ears. Monica realized she needed the vacation as much as John did. She felt like she was losing her husband and hoped to re-establish some of their connection and intimacy that had been lost. Unfortunately, Linda wasn't helping Monica in her quest to keep her marriage together. 2 days prior to their vacation, Monica was dreading the upcoming conversation, but in her mind, it couldn't be avoided. She told him, "John, I need to take my laptop with me, just in case. I hope I don't need it, but they may need me to look at a few things while we're at sea. If they do need me, having my laptop should get me finished quicker than when I only had my phone last time." She prayed he wouldn't blow up over this. On their last getaway vacation, to St. Martin, Linda had called her over some crisis, and she spent several hours for a couple of days on her phone. John was seething and Monica felt terrible, but she didn't confront Linda. She simply did her best to try to make it up to her justifiably upset husband. With this new revelation concerning her laptop, John had to bite his tongue. The whole point of this trip was for them to spend time away from work because for the last 3 years, all Monica did was work. She was rarely home before 7 on weeknights and many nights and some weekends it was even later. Hence his reason for traveling more for work. With both of them approaching 30, John had been trying to bring up their having children, but Monica, who had been for it, had been putting him off the last few years. They were always supposed to start after the next promotion, but after each of the last 3, she kept working even harder. He said, "I thought we agreed to focus on us this trip and take a break from work. What happened to that? We are going to be gone 9 days, and you know that I have that huge client meeting as soon as we get back. I can't be disconnected from the firm for that long." John fumed, "Do they know or care how much they are hurting our marriage? Do you?" Monica snapped back, "Comments like that hurt our marriage even more. This vacation was supposed to be for us." She replied, "It is for us, or I wouldn't be going." John simply shook his head. He had hoped the cruise would give them a chance to close the gap that was growing wider and wider between them. He had already had serious doubts, but now? It was time for him to take some precautionary action. He decided not to say any more. He didn't want to get into an argument that could spill over into their vacation. They needed this vacation to turn out well. On the first day of the vacation, the early flight to Miami was uneventful and put them there in plenty of time to get on their ship and settle in before it departed. They had their clothes hung and dressed for dinner and some dancing. They were assigned seats with an older couple from Dallas, Mark and Jessie Sutton, who had brought their recently divorced daughter Andrea with them to try and cheer her up. Monica and John had an enjoyable dinner speaking with all of them. Andrea, who was several years older than Monica and John, struck up a good conversation with Monica about many things, including overbearing bosses. John wisely did not join that conversation, otherwise, he would likely have started an argument. Later, while Monica and John were dancing, Monica saw Andrea dancing with her dad. Without asking, Monica eased her and John over towards the other couple and then said, "John, would you mind dancing a few dances with Andrea? I think it would be nice for her to dance with someone besides her father." It wasn't really what John wanted, because quality time spent with his wife was a rarity recently. He wanted to monopolize all of his wife's time, but he didn't think a few dances could hurt. Andrea seemed to enjoy herself, and they danced comfortably together. After the fourth song, John saw Monica sitting and talking to Andrea's parents, and they decided to sit for a few minutes also. Monica was smiling as he returned to the table. As he approached, she smiled at the Suttons, thanked them for a nice evening, and took John's arm to escort him outside. They walked the decks until late, and when they returned to their cabin, they made love, quietly, into the wee hours of the morning, on their truly private balcony. Before curling up together in their bed, Monica told her husband, "Thank you, John. This was just what I needed." He kissed her on her nose and they fell asleep together. The next day the cruise on the sea was a success and they got a good night's sleep after such a late night. An early morning lovemaking and a great brunch was a great way to start the day. They laid by the pool holding hands and generally enjoying being with each other. John was pleased to see his pretty wife in a bikini instead of her usual one-piece. The Suttons found them and joined them. They and the Suttons shared the same table at dinner that night, and they felt very comfortable chatting and enjoying themselves. After a wonderful dinner, they skipped the dancing for a risque show, which made Monica hot enough that she was ready to have sex in the elevator. They barely made it to their cabin with their clothes on. The ship's first stop was Puerto Costa Maya, Mexico, where they toured the pyramids and shopped until late in the day. The Suttons had gone into Cancun and they compared notes over dinner. They were having a great time, and the tension from Monica's work and John's recent travels seemed to float away in the breeze each time the ship pulled anchor and sailed on towards the next port. The next day brought a new destination. The Blakes and the Suttons decided to spend a relaxing day on the beach in Belize. Monica and Andrea both wore bikinis on the beach, and John couldn't help but notice that Andrea still had a nice figure for a woman near 40, with an impressive chest straining her bikini top. After returning to the ship, the newly formed group of Suttons and Blakes spent the evening dancing after dinner, and the Blakes had another wonderful night in their bedroom. Unfortunately, it wasn't to last. The next morning, prior to their leaving for a shore excursion to West Bay Beach in Honduras, Monica received a call from Linda. John could only hear one side of the conversation. "Hey, Linda. What's up? Oh. They want to change what? Today? Can't Marshall do it?" John was not getting a good feeling about this. Okay. I understand." She looked at John with her sad, puppy dog eyes and said, "I'm sorry, sweetie, but I need to stay here and work some. The client wants to make a few changes to the language in the bond offering. I hope I can join you guys after lunch or mid-afternoon." John just shook his head. "How often do you get time off, away from the firm?" "Not very often, and Linda knows that, yet she still reaches out to you. Why doesn't she ask someone on your team?" "John, don't give me a hard time, please. I don't want this either, but this is my client and it's a $100 million bond offering. I'll get a very nice bonus when this is all finished. Also, this is quite the feather in our cap, because this business usually goes to Wilcox's firm in Austin. After the scandal last Halloween, we've picked up some of their business. We want to keep it." He shook his head and said, "What good is having a buy? Gee, bonus if you never get the time to enjoy it?" At what price are you and your managers willing to sacrifice your families for a few extra dollars? This irked Monica to no end. It seemed that they continued to have the same battle with no ground gained by either side. What she neglected to tell him was that there weren't any successful families at her level and above, just distant couples struggling to stay married or divorcees looking for the next one. Monica replied, "I'm doing the best that I can. Hey, we've enjoyed ourselves on this trip so far. Hopefully, this won't take very long. Give the Suttons my apologies and enjoy yourself. At least you still get the day off. Take lots of pictures for me." Monica, I don't want to start an argument while we are trying to enjoy our vacation, but this is not good. I'm not very happy. I'll try to be understanding, but you know this has been an ongoing issue that has been hurting us. We need to find a way to fix this problem. I know we do, sweetie. Please try and be patient with me. I love you. She walked over and kissed him on the lips. He allowed himself to kiss her back but was burning up inside. He said, "Text us when you are on your way." Monica lit up at what seemed to be his consenting to her staying behind. John apologized to the Suttons and they left the ship for their excursion. It wasn't the same for John without his wife. He would have to admit that the beach they went to was fun. They had a VIP section with free food and drinks. They went snorkeling in the morning, had a sumptuous lunch and tried to fight off food comas on the beach under their umbrellas. Andrea asked if John would put some sunscreen on her back, and he obliged, though he felt uncomfortable doing that. He texted Monica to see if she was finished yet, and she replied that it looked like she was going to be tied up until they returned. Andrea tried to cheer him up, with only moderate success. Their afternoon activity was to be a jet ski excursion and they had initially reserved 3 jet skis, but Andrea convinced John to share, so she let hers go back. While riding together, she either had her arms around him or when she drove, he had his arms around her. Andrea could feel him, but she respected his marriage. She didn't try to grind herself against him or try to place his arms or hands directly under her breasts. At the same time, she wasn't about to go out of her way to avoid the normal contact caused by the bumps. They were adults and would just deal with it. At the end of the ride, Andrea was driving, and before they got off the jet ski, she turned, kissed him on the cheek and said, "Thank you for being such a gentleman. I've not had that much fun with a man in a long time." John smiled and felt a little bad for her if that was true. Upon returning to his room, Monica was sitting out on the balcony working on her laptop. When she saw him, she gave him a weak smile and sad eyes. John saw those eyes and felt bad for his wife. He walked over to her and kissed her on the lips. "Wow. I wasn't expecting that." He said, "I missed you today. I had fun, but it would have been better with you." "I missed you too, sweetie. I'm wrapping up now. If you want, go ahead and grab your shower, and I'll be right behind you. I could wait, and you could join me." "I'd like that, too, but you should go ahead." After his shower, Monica hadn't moved. "I promise. I'm coming. Go ahead and go to dinner without me. I ate a sandwich not long ago for a late lunch, so I'll be okay." Perturbed at his wife, John grudgingly went. Not long after he sat at his table, the Suttons arrived, and Andrea sat by him. He offered his apologies for Monica, saying that she should be joining them soon, or at least he hoped so. However, Monica was a no-show during dinner. Mark and Jesse liked the idea of John dancing with Andrea, so they suggested they go dancing again. While not 100% comfortable with that, John and Andrea went with them. Andrea said, "John, you don't have to dance with me without Monica if you are uncomfortable, but if you would like to, I would, too. I'll try to be good company. If you can't tell, I'm a little irritated right now. I suspected you were. I'm sure Monica is also." John didn't bother responding with what he was thinking, which was that apparently, she wasn't irritated enough. Monica didn't appear until the second set of dances that John danced with Andrea. When she walked into the room, she saw them chatting away while dancing with each other. It was perfectly innocent, but she had to admit to herself that it did bother her a little. He was supposed to be dancing with her. It was entirely her fault, or more accurately, Linda's fault, but still. She walked up to them all smiles. "Hey, you two. Mind if I cut in?" Andrea smiled at her and thanked John for the dance. Monica asked, "Are you okay, John?" He sighed, "It's been a rough day. Everything I did with her, I wanted to do with you." Monica stood on her tiptoes and lightly nibbled on John's earlobe. "Well, there are some things that we can do together, that the two of you better not. I'd like to go back to our room and do some of those things very soon, after I get a bite to eat." Monica was deliberately trying to get his mind off of the lost day and off of Andrea. Also, she had bad news that she knew was going to disappoint him again. John liked the sound of spending some quality time with her in the bedroom. Monica ate a little, after which the two of them politely excused themselves. Once in their room, Monica made an extra effort to screw her husband's brains out. John wondered about the enthusiasm on her part and hoped it was only her trying to make up for the day. The next morning the ship was back in Belize, and when they woke, Monica made love with him again, and once they were finished, she said, "John, I know you are going to be angry with me, but I need to do more work today." She could feel the heat that began to radiate from her husband and knew that he must be furious. She eased away from him, not from fear, but because she wanted to give him a little space. He was furious. Without saying a word, he got out of bed and got into the shower. Monica wanted to join him, but she knew that wasn't a good idea. When he returned to the bedroom dressed and ready to go, he asked, "So, all last night while we were making love, you knew you had to work today?" She nodded. "You didn't say anything because you knew I would be angry, which would stop me from wanting to make love with you." Again, she nodded. "So, last night was all about you? Not us." "No. It wasn't. I wanted to show you how much I love you and care for you. If you were angry, you wouldn't have let me." John shook his head. "Your work is killing us, Monica. I hope you realize that. We'll never get these days back. Good memories that we are supposed to be building together are being replaced by anger and frustration. Even if your bank repaid you for this trip, which they won't, and give you make-up time to replace this vacation, my work won't." "I know." He continued, "This trip was supposed to be for us, our marriage." He waited, but she didn't say anything. "I want you to think long and hard about what is more important to you, your work or your marriage, because the time is coming very soon that you may not have both." She was stunned and angered by that statement. "What's that supposed to mean? I thought that we were in this together?" John looked at her for a second, waiting for her to catch the irony of her statement. She didn't, so he pointed it out to her. "Yeah, when we got married, I also thought we were in this together, too. Since before our previous vacation, I keep getting the feeling that I'm in this alone. I pay the bills, cook the meals, take care of the cars, wash and fold most of the clothes and clean the apartment. I do all these things to try and remove some of the friction from your life so I can spend your downtime with you on fun activities. Unfortunately, the reason I have time to do all those tasks is because I'm usually at home by myself." Tears were beginning to well up in Monica's pretty brown eyes. "Speaking of apartments, weren't we supposed to go house hunting? Isn't the house supposed to be for children? I know I'm about to blow up our vacation, but I will not have children with someone who puts their job first. Children and marriage have to come first." He said, "You know, one day you're going to realize what you mean to them as a person versus what you mean to them as an employee. I wish I could be there on that day. I think the word I'm looking for is epiphany. I suspect if that day ever comes, you're going to have some regrets regarding how much of your life you gave them. Have a fantastic day." He turned and walked out the door, gently pulling it behind him when he wanted to slam it. Monica's tears flowed after that. John just threw down the gauntlet on their marriage. If she didn't get Linda to find a way to give her some time, her marriage was probably over. This trip had started so well. Now what was she going to do? She couldn't blow off her client, but was she willing to blow off her husband? She ordered a room service breakfast and poured herself into her work, hoping she could finish and get back to her vacation. She needed John in her life. She couldn't imagine her life without him, but how could she navigate the next few days? She had no idea. Back in Belize, John went with the Suttons to see a Mayan temple about an hour west of Belize City. He tried to be pleasant, but they could tell that Monica's not joining them had him in a melancholy mood. The group had a nice lunch near the shore and then toured an old rum factory, which was a hoot. The guide was really funny and knowledgeable, and of course, there were plenty of samples. John and Andrea had a few too many samples, and as the tour went on, they began playfully teasing each other. By the time they left the tour, she was on his arm, and he wasn't pushing her away. Andrea's parents were glad they were having so much fun, but they weren't losing sight of John's being married. The shopping on the way back to the ship was interesting. Jessie, Andrea's mom, wanted to look at one of the jewelry shops. Andrea had no interest in jewelry at that moment and dragged John into a clothing store. John would have rather gone into a cigar store across the street, but Andrea was persistent, and being a nice guy, he relented. They were both a little inebriated, and when she started asking him, "How do you think this would look on me?" John's patented response was good, good. She was in no mood to be placated, so she found something a little more daring and asked, "What do you think about this?" When John replied, "I'm sure you would look nice in that," it wasn't the response she was looking for. Still a little intoxicated, she said, "I'll bet I could get your attention if I were trying on swimsuits." Seeing an opportunity for some fun, he responded, "Prove it." She pulled him by the hand towards the swimsuits and the changing rooms. He saw her grab a few items and enter a room. He sat down and tried not to fall asleep. When Andrea came out a couple of minutes later wearing a fairly standard bikini, similar to the one she wore yesterday, he yawned, and she fumed. A few minutes later, the next one was from that classic song, "Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini," and it looked good on her. It was only slightly smaller than the one she wore yesterday, but since it was a string bikini, it tied together. He thought she should get it, but teasing her, he simply yawned again. The third one was a white, unlined bikini about half the size of the previous one. The top triangles barely concealed the center of what looked like D-cup breasts, and the bottoms would have just covered her pubic hair, if she had any, because with the thin, unlined material it was fairly obvious she shaved everything but a landing strip. Yes, it was a little slutty looking, but she had a nice shape and she looked very fit. John was intrigued by that one and snapped a quick picture with his phone. Defiantly, she stood there with her hands on her hips, and John was about to say something when her mother came around the corner. "Andrea, I found you some earrings," was all she got out before she saw her daughter in that swimsuit. Andrea dashed back into the changing area, and her mother followed her. John stood up and walked out of the store, passing Mark along the way. "I'm sorry, Mark. I'm going back to the ship. Tell her to get the yellow one," was all he got out before he cleared the doors and hopped into a taxi. Confused, Mark continued into the store to look for his wife and daughter. John hadn't done anything wrong. Had Monica been with the two of them, that would have been a lot of fun, and he probably could have gotten Monica to join in. But Monica wasn't with them. Alone, that scene probably wouldn't pass the "in front of the wife" test, and what was worse was that John was more than a little attracted to her in that bikini, which made him feel terribly guilty. It also pissed him off that he was in that situation because Monica couldn't say no to her company. When he got back to the ship, he wasn't ready to return to his cabin. He went to the bar overlooking a pool. He'd had enough alcohol for the day, and ordered a soda while watching some children play. Watching them should have made him happy, but instead it made him sad. He wasn't sure if he was going to ever have children, because since he hadn't heard from his wife, he knew she was still working. Once again, she was choosing her job over their marriage and any future family. Then there was the incident at the clothing store. They were pretty much just teasing each other, but he realized that he felt an interest in Andrea, not just a physical attraction. It was the first time since marrying Monica that had ever happened. That told him a lot about the state of their marriage. This cruise was having quite the opposite impact on his marriage from what they had been hoping. He made a decision and spent the next half hour browsing on his phone and making one purchase. Much later, he could see guests, having dressed for dinner, working their way towards the various dining rooms. He checked his phone and he finally read the text she sent him 20 minutes earlier. "Where are you? Are we eating dinner together?" He guessed that meant she could at least take a few minutes away from her laptop. Oomph, he thought derisively. She'll probably keep working and order dinner in. Then he chastised himself for having such a negative thought. He texted her back. Running late. Go ahead without me, and I'll meet you at dinner, like last night. Monica had already started getting ready. When she saw the text, she thought he was being snarky. He didn't intend to be. They arrived separately last night, and they could this night also. When he returned to the cabin, he quickly showered and changed. He found them at their normal dining table and appeared to be about halfway through their meal. He ordered his dinner but mostly picked at it, which Monica noticed. He wasn't very hungry. Except for Mark, nobody was very talkative. Monica excused herself to go to the restroom, and while she was gone, John asked to speak to Mark outside for a minute. Once outside, Mark gave him a perplexed look, and John said, "Mark, I want to apologize about earlier. We both had a little too much to drink, and I guess we were too worked up, or too playful or too something. Damn it, it shouldn't have happened, and I'm sorry." Mark chuckled a little and replied, "Well, first, if you truly need to apologize to someone, I don't think I'm the right person. Also, I don't know that an apology is needed. Yes, that poor excuse for a swimsuit was a little small, but the two of you weren't even near each other and you were in a store in broad daylight, so it isn't like anything could have happened. I know why you are telling me this, but I doubt that would have gone anywhere. However, I can tell that Andrea likes you, and you are a married man. So please be careful with her. She would never intentionally hurt your marriage. I hope you would never intentionally, or unintentionally, hurt her heart." It pained John that Mark could even ask him that question, but he understood his asking. "No. I wouldn't. As I'm sure you've noticed, Monica and I have our own challenges. I'm too wrapped up in them at the moment to be much good to anyone else. Don't beat yourself up too hard, John. Marriage can be hard. Jesse and I have had our share of struggles. Andrea's ex-husband certainly wasn't the best. He worked too much, also. So I think it's been good for her to be around you, to know that not all men are like he was. I hope you and Monica can get things worked out before you have children. They change everything." John nodded his head, agreeing. When they returned inside, Monica tried to lighten the mood and asked about the excursion. Jesse was happy to show Monica some pictures of the temple and from the rum factory. She had a good short video of Mark, Andrea, and John tossing back a shot of rum. In that video, Monica could see the brief interaction between her husband and Andrea. After they put down the shot glasses, she watched Andrea put her hand on John's forearm. It was probably perfectly innocent, but it was a touch that she should have been giving to her husband, not someone else. A few more pictures showed the two of them close together. Andrea didn't think anything of it at the time, but seeing those pictures now, in Monica's presence, she saw what Monica was seeing and wasn't happy with herself. The next few pictures were of diamonds and emeralds at the jewelry store Jesse and Mark visited. Monica turned to her husband and asked, "Did you take any pictures?" He smiled and said, "Of course." He slid his phone towards his wife, and she unlocked it like she always did since they didn't have any secrets from each other. As she was navigating to his picture roll, John remembered the last picture he took, which would be the first picture she saw. It all happened in the blink of an eye. Before John could get the words out of his mouth, she was already opening the app and the first picture that popped up was the picture of Andrea in that barely there bikini. Monica was stunned to see that picture on her husband's phone. "What the hell?" she thought. She turned to her husband and asked, "What exactly have you guys been doing the last 2 days?" Andrea blanched at seeing herself in that suit and at what Monica just said. Jesse jumped in. "Oh, hell, Monica, I was there. Nothing happened. They had a little too much to drink at the rum factory and just acted stupid while in the store. After she tried that one on, I was going to get John to try on some of those tiny, cheeky swimsuits next, but he chickened out. That probably saved the evening." Monica looked at this little old lady, probably in her early to mid-60s, who had been very nice to Monica and John during the cruise, and then looked at John, imagining Jesse egging him into some kind of tiny, tight swimsuit, barely covering his ass with hair hanging out everywhere. Then she burst into laughter. "Oh, damn, Jesse. You have no idea how much I would have paid you for a picture of that. You have no idea. She kept giggling, and after a few seconds everyone at the table erupted into laughter also. Crisis avoided. They attended a different show that evening, which they all enjoyed. Mark invited them to have some late-night drinks, but Monica declined, wanting a little quality time with her husband. They did pick up a bottle of wine to take with them. Their cruise package included all-you-can-drink alcohol. As they were all saying their goodbyes, the goodbye between John and Andrea seemed strained, and Monica picked up on that. Somehow, she didn't feel she was getting the whole story from earlier. Once they entered their nice cabin, John wasn't going to wait to tell his wife the truth. He was glad for the pleasant evening, but he couldn't take another day like today. He asked, "Monica, will you sit with me outside for a few minutes while we share our wine?" "Sure, John." No baby, or sweetie, or any other term of endearment. Once seated outside, with the breeze from the ship's movement blowing, he said, "You didn't get the entire truth from Jessie earlier. She was indeed at the store, but she wasn't there the entire time." Tersely, Monica said, "I see. So what did she miss?" "Not much really. Andrea dragged me into the store, which carries all kinds of women's clothing. I was still feeling the rum and wasn't in the mood to shop. She asked me what I thought about a few dresses, and when I acted bored, she dragged me to the swimsuits. Jessie missed the first 2 swimsuits that Andrea tried on, which were no different from something you would wear, but she saw the one in the picture. I took the picture because I had planned on all of us teasing her with it, but when Jessie showed up, Andrea and I were both embarrassed and I returned to the ship. I was angry with myself and angry with you for my being in that situation. I didn't hear from you, so when I got back to the ship, I went and sat for a while. That's why I was late. I didn't want another fight." Monica put down her wine and crawled into her husband's lap. "I'm so sorry, John. I hope you know I trust you." "I do." She couldn't bring herself to tell him that she had to work again tomorrow. She had no idea what it would mean for them. John didn't need to ask, because if she didn't plan to work, it would have been the first thing she had told him. They didn't make love that night. Monica slept glued next to her husband, or at least she tried to sleep, fearing what the next day would bring. John couldn't sleep either, because if his wife worked again tomorrow, he wouldn't be able to take it anymore. Suspecting what was about to happen ate at his soul. It was the longest night of his life. The next morning, John got up and showered like normal. When he came into the bedroom, he asked Monica, who was still waking up, if she would like for him to bring her some breakfast. She thanked him but said that she would just order it and have room service bring it. He nodded in response. He went around the cabin tidying up his things and arranging them, so they were nice and neat. Monica lay in bed and lazily tried to watch, but since she didn't sleep well, she still wasn't quite ready to wake up. With her eyes closed, she yawned, stretched and asked, "What do you and the Suttons have planned for today in Cozumel?" This was the ship's final port of call before another day of open sea sailing before arriving back in Miami. "I honestly don't know. I'll have to see what they have in mind." She smiled at him and said, "I hope you have a good day." John sat on the edge of the bed and replied, "I hope you do, too." Then he hugged his wife tightly and kissed her passionately before saying, "I love you, Monica." That made her feel guilty for staying behind, and the tears started to build. She sniffed and said, "I love you too, John. I wish I could show you how much." John released his wife. Should he say it? Could he? Sweetness or bitterness? Oh, he hated this, but he had to give her one last chance. He said, "You can, you know. Show me, that is. All you have to do is come with me. We will have a great day together." He held out his hand to help her out of the bed, hoping for what would surely be a miracle. She looked at his hand and was distraught. She knew they would have a great day. That was indisputable. She desperately wanted to take his hand. She loved him so much, but she had responsibilities at work, like $100 million worth of responsibility. She couldn't just walk out without being fired. She reached for his hand and pulled him back towards her. Whether she saw the symbolism or not, John did. Yet again, she would not prioritize their marriage but would prioritize her work. She wanted to hang on to him, but she wouldn't leave her work for him. His sadness was almost crippling. He sat on the bed again and hugged his wife. She was openly crying now. He hugged her one more time and got up to get her the box of tissues. She took them from him and thanked him. John paused a moment at the door, with his hand on the door handle. If he stayed, he would be continuing to enable her behavior. No. He needed to go today. Monica saw the hesitation and watched her husband as she wiped her nose with the tissue. She wondered what he was about to say, but he didn't say anything. He simply turned the handle and closed the door. He did not look back. More than the previous 2 days, Monica felt the need to reach out to John. She didn't try to call, but she did text him several times. Late morning, she texted him. Monica, how's Cozumel? John, sunny and busy. He sent her a picture. It was a bustling street. It looked like the picture was taken from the back of a car. Monica, have fun. At lunchtime, before she started eating her sandwich, she took a picture of it and sent it to him. Monica, when I'm eating the food on this ship, I'm thinking that we don't even have to sail anywhere, I could just stay on board and eat. I wonder if this cruise line has any ships in the Mediterranean because we are definitely doing this again. John, smiley face. Then he sent her a picture of his plated tacos that he was about to eat. Monica, when we get home, we are going out for Mexican. Those don't even look that great, but I'm missing Mexican food already. Later in the day, she sent him another one. Monica, I'm looking forward to some dancing later. Are you back on the boat yet? John, no. Monica, okay, hurry back. When she got out of the shower, she sent him another one. Monica, where are you? I'm almost ready. There wasn't any reply. A few minutes later, she sent him one more. Monica, answer me. I'm walking to the dining room. Still no reply. When Monica arrived at their dinner table, she saw Mark and Jesse, but she didn't see Andrea. She said, "Did John and Andrea come back with you, or are they shopping again?" After the picture she saw yesterday, the very thought of that made her uneasy. Jesse said, "No. Neither of them came with us today. Andrea thinks she picked up something bad in Belize yesterday and has been in her cabin all day with an upset stomach. We've not seen nor heard from John all day." What? Then she thought, both of them have been missing all day? Monica asked, "I believe you guys are on the same floor we are. What cabin is Andrea in?" Mark innocently replied, 1307. Why? Jesse elbowed him in the ribs for giving out that information, but Monica didn't see it. She was already moving. Her back was facing them as she said, "I'll be right back." With fire in her eyes, she stormed to Andrea's cabin in less than 5 minutes. When she got there, she didn't even have to bang on the door. Andrea had been warned and opened the door for her. "He's not here, Monica. I truly am sick. I've not seen nor heard from him all day. I am feeling a little better. Thanks for asking." Andrea really did look sick, and the room smelled not of love or perfume trying to cover up the smell of love. She looked at Andrea again and realized that John had really never been there. Monica said, "I'm sorry, Andrea. I have to find him." Andrea replied, "Go to the guest services desk and see if he missed the ship in Mexico." "Do you think he's still in Mexico?" "We left a couple of hours ago." "How will he get on board?" Andrea didn't have an answer that Monica would like, so she simply said, "I don't know. Go ask the guest services manager. I'm sure they'll have better answers for you than I would." When Monica left the room, she tried calling John, but he didn't answer. It was after 8 p.m. and was dark outside. Now she was worried for his safety. She rushed to the guest services desk and was borderline frantic. She said, "I can't find my husband. Can you tell me if he made it back on board? He went into Cozumel today." Since all cruise ship passengers must badge off the ship when going on an excursion or exiting the ship at a port, the manager could quickly tell Monica, "I see that he badged off, but he hasn't returned. We haven't received any calls from the port, but let me give them a call to see if he missed the return time window. Monica texted, John, where are you? Call me. I'm afraid for you. The manager said, Mrs. Blake, he's not at the port. I'm sorry. Is he not answering his phone? Monica didn't know what to do. She shook her head and said, no. Okay, let me contact our port agent again. They have a list of police stations and hospitals. If he's at one of those, we'll know within a couple of hours. Police stations? Hospitals? Monica was on the verge of tears. Then her phone pinged. It was a text from John. He sent her a picture of their dining room table with a stack of mail on it. He said, I picked up the mail. Monica was confused. She replied, Monica, where are you? When did you take that picture? John, at the apartment. Just now. Monica gasped, oh, my God. The manager asked, Mrs. Blake, did you reach your husband? Is he okay? Yes. 1 minute. Monica found the nearest chair and sat down. Fearing but expecting the response. Monica, why? John, you left me no choice. Monica, please say you are meeting me in Miami. John, no. I'll be gone by the time you return here. Monica, I'm calling you. Please pick up. She told the manager that her husband was at home and they wouldn't need to search for him in Cozumel or Cancun. The manager felt bad for Monica. This wasn't the first time he had seen this. John's phone rang NRA. Ing, but he did not pick up. She texted. Monica, John, please talk to me. John, talking doesn't do any good. I'm done. Oh no. Monica, please. I can't live without you. John, you've been doing a damn fine job of it lately. Ouch. She couldn't believe it. He left her. He left her. On a ship in the middle of the Caribbean. He left her. Monica lowered her head and wept. A minute later she felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Jesse and Mark. Jesse said, Monica, Andrea asked us to come and check on you. What's happened? Her eyes were already red, and her eyeliner was running. He left me. He actually left me. He flew back to San Antonio today. I guess from Cozumel. Oh, you poor thing. I'm so sorry. What can we do? Monica said, nothing. There's nothing left to do. Tonight, I'll go back to my cabin and sleep. Tomorrow, I'll sit on my balcony and work. Then I'll fly home and work some more. Mark said, did Andrea tell you why she divorced her husband? Monica shook her head, and Mark continued, she never saw him. He was either working or screwing whoever he was working with. She finally got tired of it. Now I'm not suggesting you're like him, but it's hard to have a marriage when the other person feels neglected. Jessie chastised her husband, Mark, she doesn't need to hear that. Monica, I'm sure you still have a chance. I watched him dance with you. I saw the guilt on his face yesterday. That man is in love with you. You still have a chance, if you want him badly enough. That was the question, wasn't it? How badly did she want him? The elderly couple escorted her back to her cabin. Mark left and Jessie stayed with her for a few minutes to make sure she was going to be okay. Jessie asked, are you okay for me to leave you? You aren't going to do anything foolish, are you? No, ma'am. I'll be okay. I'm going to be ready to get out of here once we arrive in Miami, and I'm going to go get my husband back. There you go, girl. That's the spirit. Monica smiled at Jessie as she was closing the door. As soon as it was closed, Monica collapsed on the bed and sobbed. How did she let it get this far? The next morning, Monica checked her room. It only took her a few minutes to make sure that things were in a good place for easy packing that night and the next morning. She sent John a text. Monica, good morning, husband. I love you and miss you. I'll be home for you tomorrow. John didn't reply. Around lunchtime, she thought the knock on her door was room service bringing the lunch she had ordered. It wasn't. "Andrea, what are you doing here?" "I talked to my parents last night and again this morning. There's something I want to tell you." Monica had a confused look on her face and said, "Go on." "Your husband is a keeper. You know that, right?" "I believe so." "Yes." "Why are you telling me this?" Andrea continued, "Have you ever ridden on a jet ski before?" "With a guy?" Monica nodded her head. "It was a long time ago. Before John and I started dating. John and I thought it would be okay to share a jet ski. We're adults. Perfectly innocent. Right?" Apparently neither of us had ridden one with a member of the opposite sex before. "Oh," replied Monica, beginning to remember some of her own experiences from back then. Monica asked, "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think you have a pretty special man, and I want to ask you a favor. If you are half as smart as I think you are, you're going to try to win him back. I don't know if you're willing to do what it takes to get him, but the two of you have a foundation of love that you could be building on." "I don't understand." Andrea asked, "How badly do you want to keep your husband?" "Like my life depends on it." "Are you sure about that?" Now Monica was getting irritated. "Of course, I am. What business is it of yours anyway?" "It's not any of my business, yet. However, if you give up, I would appreciate it if you would let me know." "What? Why?" Andrea smirked, "Because either you're going to get him or I am. I'm not a homewrecker, so you get first shot, but if you give in or give up, I'm coming for him." Monica had a perplexed look on her face. "I think John's a pretty special man. I doubt he's perfect, but I'm at least interested enough to pursue him." "Do you know if he wants children of his own?" "You know I already have 2, but I might be able to have one more before I get too old." Monica was flabbergasted at her statements. You want to have kids with him?" "I might. If he decides he isn't interested in either of us, I'm sure there are plenty of women that will be interested in him. He's nice and a good dancer. He seems like a good earner. He clearly loves his wife. He's a gentleman. That's a pretty good start for me, and I'm sure it would be for a lot of other women. Oh, he's cute, too. Now wait just a minute. He's still married to me." With her best poker face, Andrea said, "Oh, honey, I know he is. That's why I'm letting you try to win him back first. All I ask is that if you give up, then let me know, so I can take my best shot at him. I don't plan on your getting a shot at him. I know and completely understand. You know." Then she paused, "This is just in case." Frustrated, Monica began walking towards the door. "There isn't going to be any just in case. He's mine, and I'm keeping him." "Oh, I know. I'm sure you are. I guess we'll see how serious you are about meaning that." Becoming angered by Andrea's patronizing, Monica growled while standing by the door, "Now if you'll excuse me, I need to finish some work today, so I can go spend time with my husband tomorrow." "No problem. Good luck, dear. May the best woman win." Monica slammed the door behind her. "That bitch." Monica swore in frustration. Andrea just smiled. A job well done, she thought. A few minutes later, Andrea met her parents and reported the conversation. "It went pretty much like you said it would. She seems serious about trying to keep him, but I guess we'll see how badly she wants to over the next few days and weeks. John isn't responding to her. Is he responding to either of you?" Mark replied, "He apologized yesterday for skipping out on us. All he has said today is that he would let us know how he's doing once he's settled in." Andrea asked, "Do you believe he's going to divorce her?" Mark replied, "He left her where she couldn't reach him physically for almost 2 full days. He didn't just go home to sit and wait for her. He was giving himself a head start. I suspect either he's moving out or moving her out. I'm not sure which. That doesn't mean that she doesn't have a chance, but it means that she had better be ready to decide which she loves more, her job or her husband." She doesn't get to keep her current job and him. Not going to happen. Andrea stared off into the distance, thinking. Jesse said, "You aren't planning on doing anything yet, are you? With him? Right now? No. But if they don't get back together, then yes. Yes, I am." The next morning Monica was packed bright and early and eager to catch an early flight home. At 7 a.m. there was a knock on the door. It looked like a steward but was someone from guest services. "Good morning, Mrs. Blake. I'll be your luggage valet when you are ready. Mr. Blake asked me to make sure that your disembarkation went as smoothly and easily as possible. Here is my card. Please call me 10 minutes before you are ready to leave, and I'll make sure you and Mr. Blake's bags are delivered to your airline and that your car is waiting to pick you up. I hope you've had a pleasant cruise." This was nice. Very unexpected, but very nice. "Thank you so much," she replied. "The first few days were wonderful, but I've had to work the last several. I'm sorry to hear about your work schedule. At least you had a wonderful room from which to work." "I did. I'm going to eat quickly, then I'll give you a call." "Very well, ma'am." Monica continued to text John, but he never responded. At least she could see they were being delivered. He hadn't blocked her, nor changed his cell phone number, yet. It was a very easy trip to the airport, with only having to manage her carry-on. She was very nervous, not sure what to expect upon arriving home, which even with the earlier flight, wouldn't be until after lunch. After arriving at the San Antonio airport, she saw a driver by her luggage claim holding a sign for Mrs. Blake. Monica identified herself to the driver, and he helped her with the bags. Upon arriving at her in John's apartment, the driver assisted her to the front door and then bid her a good day. The moment of truth, she thought. What would she find on the inside? Upon opening the door, she saw nothing unusual. Everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. The pile of mail that was in the picture John sent was gone. "John? John? I'm home," she called out. Silence. "John," she continued. Nothing was any different until she got to the bedroom. The room was still impeccably clean, like they left it. However, when she looked in the closet, all of his clothes were gone. She checked his drawers and toiletries that he didn't take on the cruise, and they were gone also. She looked in the home office and his laptop and work items were missing. She had hoped he was simply angry and would talk to her when she got home, but that wasn't the case. He was gone. She tried to call his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. She sent him another text but did not get a reply. What she wanted to do was to crawl up on the bed and cry until she fell asleep, but she didn't have that luxury. Tomorrow was Monday and she had to review all of her and her team's work from the past several days with Linda and the client. Tomorrow would be a big day. She tried to put John out of her mind, but she couldn't. Oh, she put her things away and laid out her business suit and things for tomorrow, like she needed to. But every time she and more than a few minutes thinking about work, a picture of Andrea in that swimsuit would pop into her head along with the last thing Andrea said, "May the best woman win." Monica was determined to be the winner. She would do whatever it took after she met with her client tomorrow. Monica rose early and beat most of the other managers, including Linda, into the office. She sent John a text, "Monica, wish me luck today. It should all be over by lunchtime, then I'm coming to find you. I love you." She didn't receive a reply and didn't expect to. That was okay, though, she would make him see the light after today. She received a few polite greetings, and a few asked her about her vacation, which she embellished about its wonderfulness, minimizing the amount of time she had to work. She didn't fool anyone. Many of her team were working alongside her, virtually, the last several days. This deal was too important to the firm for them not to. When Linda came in, she was all smiles. She had reviewed all the materials for the day and complimented Monica and her team in glowing terms. When word of how Linda and Monica's team worked this deal climbed up the food chain, Linda could foresee another promotion in her not-too-distant future, and a fat bonus check to boot. When her husband returned from his overseas trip, he would be pleased by that. Monica had shined yet again. When the client team came in, Linda and Monica were prepared. The boardroom table was polished, the projector was focused, the squeaky chairs had been oiled and seating places were designated. There was a squad of junior staff shuffling about ensuring that anything the client might need, such as drinks, snacks, restroom directions, etc., were available and ready. All through the meeting, the client team loved what Monica and company were able to do with their last-minute requests. Even though Linda was the higher-ranking person, Monica was in charge of the presentation and discussion, since it had been her responsibility. At the end of the meeting, only cosmetic alterations to some of the documents' language were needed and the offering was ready to be placed in the market. Success. As soon as the meeting was concluded, the plan was to take the client to lunch to celebrate, network, and look for any potential new business opportunities. Linda would ensure that the right senior managers from her firm would be joining them for those discussions. Once the doors to the conference room were open, people began shuffling in and out to find the restroom or make a few calls. Linda, Monica, and several from the client team were sitting around chatting, waiting for the others to go to lunch when a tall man in a dark suit wearing some sharp ostrich boots entered the room. He spotted Monica standing by the table talking to someone and walked over to her. "Monica Blake," he asked. "Yes? I was asked to give you this and was to ask you to read it now. It is a short note. It's important." Confused as to what this could be, Monica took the small envelope, the size of a greeting card, and opened it. From the envelope, she pulled out a card. On the outside was inscribed, "I'm sorry." On the inside was a brief note. "Monica, I almost hate to do this to you at work, but here's your epiphany. This was necessary for you to finally see who you work with. Recently, we discussed a day when you would realize what you mean to them as a person versus what you mean to them as an employee. I suspect today is that day. See who supports you and who doesn't. You are becoming just like them. If that is what you want, congratulations. John." She felt something weighty inside the envelope and reached inside to see what it was. It was John's wedding ring. She gasped upon seeing it. Upon hearing her gasp, nearly a dozen sets of eyes turned towards her to witness the next event. "Monica Blake, you've been served." The tall man placed the envelope in front of her and turned to leave. The only noise that could be heard in the room was the sound of the process server's footsteps walking across the soft carpet as he left the room. With trembling hands, she opened the large manila envelope. The first words she saw were "petition for dissolution of marriage." She collapsed into the closest chair. She wouldn't cry. She couldn't, not in that setting. She was fighting back the tears, but she couldn't help it. Ultimately, it wasn't one of her co-workers that came to her assistance, but someone from the client team. Everyone else suddenly found something else to discuss on the other side of the room. Stephanie, who she had only spoken to a few times, helped her up and into the ladies' room. In the restroom, Stephanie asked, "Can I do anything for you?" "It's too late. I thought that after today, I could find him and fix everything, but I'm afraid it's over." "I guess," he finally said, "enough was enough. You still have time. You can fight the divorce." Monica sniffled, "It won't do any good. This has been brewing for a long time. I just thought that he would never leave me. I've never been unfaithful to him, and I don't think he has to me." She was surprised at herself opening up to this almost stranger. Stephanie said, "So, I'm assuming that means he got tired of your long hours?" Monica nodded. "Tsk. Well, it seems you have a decision to make. I cannot help you with that. Are you going to be okay? Can I get you anything?" Monica shook her head, "No, thank you." Stephanie stayed while Monica repaired her makeup and tried to look presentable, though for what she wasn't sure. The client had signed off on the deal. As far as she was concerned, her day was over. Lunch? Forget it. What she wanted was a couple of bottles of wine and a gallon's worth of her favorite comfort food, ice cream. When they walked back into the conference room, everyone was there and ready for lunch. Donald Rodriguez, a distinguished-looking man in his late 50s, that had worked his way up through the company, was the SVP leading the client team. He approached Monica, having heard the scuttlebutt after she left the room.
Monica, why didn't you call me and tell me that you were on vacation? We could have pushed this back a week.
The shock on her face revealed that this was never given to her as an option. Trying to take one for the team, and fearing that might be all she had left at the moment, she replied, "We want our clients to be completely satisfied with our work.
This project was too important to delay."
He smiled at her, understanding why she would feel the need to say that. He said, "I appreciate your saying that, and I am pleased with the quality of the work. However, I would prefer that we reschedule this lunch for another day when the timing is better for you." Linda was aghast at that suggestion and stepped in to try and fix the situation.
"Donald, I don't think that is necessary. I'm sure Monica will be fine after a nice glass of wine."
"If she's too uncomfortable, then I'll be happy to let her have a little time to deal with her troubles."
Donald was not receptive to this idea. Troubles? The very idea that an impending divorce could be temporarily mitigated by a glass of wine.
It was Linda to whom he had communicated the changes. She knew Monica was on vacation, and she also knew that the meeting could have been delayed.
Maybe Linda should have given Monica a little time on her vacation, and this entire situation could have been avoided.
He liked the work that was performed, but now he wondered at the cost. Forcibly, but gently, Donald said, "No." There was a word that was rarely said inside that building. A word that was needed, but if used by an employee usually meant that their career came to a screeching halt, and occasionally so did their employment. A client saying that word was a crisis. This time, all eyes turned to Donald, and the room was hushed again. "I can appreciate your wanting to continue our discussion, Linda, but the key person responsible for this deal is not at her best at the moment.
Why don't we take a week and reconvene?"
He paused and thought a moment, then said, "Our commitment to Monica is solid. We aren't going anywhere, and I assume you aren't either." Donald was speaking in soft tones, but it was clear that this wasn't a negotiation. Not wanting to upset the client, Linda replied, "We will be here and available to you.
I'll reach out to your admin to schedule a date." Donald replied, "That's okay, Linda. I'll have her give Monica a call.
We'll be ready when she is." All of Monica's colleagues in the room were stunned at that statement.
That was as vicious a put-down of Linda that they had ever witnessed. The power duo of Linda and Monica had just been put on opposite sides by the client.
They wondered if Linda had the skill to navigate past this.
"Oh. Okay.
I'll look forward to our lunch then," said Linda.
Donald smiled and said, "As will I. A good day." Everyone escorted Donald, Stephanie, and the client team to the elevator.
Stephanie told Monica to let her know if she needed anything, and Monica thanked her for her concern.
2 seconds after they could see the elevator begin its descent, Linda said, "Monica, can you join me in my office for a moment?" That wasn't a request either.
Monica was curious as to what this conversation would entail.
Linda stood behind her desk and asked Monica to close the door. "Have a seat." Monica sat.
Still standing, in the power position, Linda asked, "Would you mind telling me what the fuck just happened?
How does your lazy-ass, whining husband blow up a lunch with one of our newest and very profitable clients?" Monica was shocked at the outburst.
She wasn't shocked by what was said, because Linda's opinions of spouses were widely known, but she was shocked that Linda dared to vocalize it, given what had just happened to Monica. She wanted to tell Linda to fuck off, but that would likely mean the end of her position with her company and a future pa.
Sit Ion on the unemployment line. Then she thought of John's note.
He called it and was spot on regarding her colleagues.
Monica practically growled, "What the fuck did you just say about my husband?"
Monica hoped that despite the papers that were sitting in her lap that she still had one.
Linda cocked an eyebrow. Was Monica going to be defiant?
Linda said, "He doesn't understand the pressures of this business.
If he wants to leave you, you are better off without him." More coolly, Monica replied, "Oh, so he should be more like your husband, and not give a fuck if he sees you or not? Maybe that says something about you." Gloves were coming off. Linda flamed red, "How dare you? This isn't about my husband."
Monica smirked, You're the one that inserted husbands into this conversation. Mine wants me, or at least he did until the other day.
If I'm lucky, maybe I have a small chance of fixing that.
Where's your husband this week?
He's a partner in his company. He has to travel.
Oh?
Maybe he just doesn't mind being away from you. Fuck you and grow up.
Not all marriages are about making babies and pushing strollers around.
We're perfectly happy, said Linda.
Monica thought that Linda was protesting a little too much, but she no longer cared. She said, well, it's my decision as to whether or not I try to make my marriage work. I'm sorry to say that I've been prioritizing the needs of my company over the needs of my marriage. That stops today. Linda replied, Monica, you are an excellent manager, and obviously, we have worked very well together over the years. I'd hate to see your career come to a sudden halt over this.
Monica was boiling. Was that a threat? Well, here's one for you to think about.
Donald is waiting for my call, not yours. He sees me as the key contact for this account, not you.
Are you sure you want all that goodwill that my team and I have built with them over the last 9 months to go sour so soon?
You could miss out on those other divisions in Donald's company that everyone has been drooling over.
Linda said, you aren't the only star in this organization. You can be replaced on this account.
Monica shrugged her shoulders. Unless Linda wanted to cut off her nose to spite her face, that was a bluff. For once, thanks to Donald's deferring to her as to the timing of the next meeting, she had the power, not Linda.
Monica had made her point.
She had more important things to do at the moment than having a pissing contest with her manager.
She stood to leave. Linda asked, where do you think you're going? We aren't finished here. Actually, we are finished, for now. Even though it's none of your business, since you obviously don't care, I'm going to try to save my marriage. I'll schedule the lunch meeting after I've made some progress with that.
Showing where the power did lie at the moment, Linda said, but who knows how long that could take, or if it happens at all.
Monica smirked at Linda and replied, now I think you are starting to get the picture. I'll be out the rest of the day.
Then she strutted out the door, not giving a fuck at the moment what Linda thought. She stopped by her desk and gathered her laptop and a few important things on the off chance, though unlikely, that she wasn't allowed back in the building. Honestly, she wasn't sure she wanted to come back. She hated to throw away the gift that Donald had just given her, but was her job worth it anymore? The people certainly weren't. John had said, here's your epiphany. Watch their reactions. It was necessary for you to finally see who you work with. She thought he nailed it regarding her colleagues. Not one word of encouragement from them. It was from the client team, Stephanie and Donald, that she was shown any support. Epiphany indeed. Monica was quickly concluding that her time with her company would be ending soon. Now, she needed to go find her husband. As soon as she was in her SUV, she called him, but it went straight to voicemail. She decided to send him a text. First, she sent him a picture of his wedding ring in her hand. She texted, I'm keeping this safe until I see you again. You may not have the ring for now, but you still have my heart, which is no longer split between you and my company. There was no reply, but that was okay. Monica knew her next course of action, which was to bring in the big guns, his parents. They may not tell her where he is, but they would not turn her away. At home, she packed an overnight bag, changed into some jeans, inserted John's ring into her pocket, hopped into her SUV, and took off as fast as she dared towards Austin, where John's parents lived. She had just over an hour to think about what she was going to say. She continued rolling excuses through her mind but decided that there had been too many excuses and that she would beg for his parents' mercy. When she arrived at John's parents' house in an older suburb of Austin, she knocked, hoping that someone was home and would answer. Someone did, his mom. As soon as the door was cracked, Monica flung herself to his mom, not waiting to see her reaction. Beverly Blake hugged her back and stroked her hair. "Shhhh. There, dear. You're going to be okay. I know it's going to be hard, but we'll try to help you through this," said his mom. Monica pleaded, "But I don't want to go through this. I know I made a mistake.
Beverly sighed. Yes, you did, but the problem isn't just a one-time mistake. How long has John tried to talk to you about your work? She whispered. A long time. Don't try to sugarcoat it, Monica. She knew. It's been years, but mainly since our previous vacation. That's right. He hoped his traveling more would get your attention. Clearly it didn't, said Beverly. But I told him that I missed him when he traveled. Didn't he tell you that he missed you when you worked? Monica said, that's all true, but I can change. Maybe it took his leaving me stuck on a boat for almost 2 days to see it, but I see it now. Do you? Are you sure? This wasn't going quite the way that Monica had expected. Beverly had always been a supporter of their marriage. I am sure, Beverly. If I could just speak to John, I can prove that I'm ready to do better. I can. Will he be here? Can I see him? Monica could see Beverly trying to figure out how to answer that question without giving away too much. Sweetie, I know you need support and help, but believe me, he does, too. If you stay here to wait for, or worse, ambush him, he won't stay. He'll go stay with a friend or something, and then neither of us will know where he is. Would you be willing to go back home and let me try to arrange a meeting for you? I promise you that I'll really try. I could go back, but I would prefer to stay at a nearby hotel. Are you sure? I don't know when he's going to want to meet with you. He's hurting. Monica snickered. Yeah? I know it's my fault, but I just had divorce papers delivered to me this morning. I'm hurting, too. Beverly hugged Monica. We all are, dear. As Monica left Beverly to find a hotel, she rolled around in her mind the things that Beverly had said. She could finally see that this was it. Now that the craziness of the day was over, and she spent a little more time thinking, she realized that her husband didn't have those papers prepared over the weekend. For them to have been ready for delivery on a Monday morning, he would have had to have provided some guidance to his attorney before their vacation. That hurt. It was almost like he expected something to happen. Then she realized, with her taking her laptop, how could he not expect something to happen? That was her fault, also. Sigh. At least he hadn't cut off the credit cards or started moving money around, yet. She didn't think ass kissing was going to be enough. She needed to prove to him that she would act differently if given a second chance. Second? She thought to herself, oomph. Who knows how many second chances I've already been given? If yet another chance was given, she would not abuse it. She thought about her heated conversation with Andrea. How badly do you want to keep your husband? More than anything. More than her job, for sure. Certainly, nobody at her work gave a flying fuck about her or her marriage. She kept trying to have her cake and eat it too, and for what? She knew what she needed to do. It was the biggest professional risk of her life, but she was certain that had been her problem so far. Now she felt rather stupid for having waited as long as she had to do what she was about to do. She picked up her phone and prepared to hit the hornet's nest. To Linda, she texted, I quit. Immediately her phone began to ring, but she ignored it. Ping. Voicemail. Ping. She received a text. Her phone was making all sorts of noises until she decided to mute Linda for a while. She didn't want to take a chance on missing something from anyone else. She found a hotel about 10 minutes from John's parents' house. Once she checked into her room, she was struck at that moment by how alone she was, no husband, no friends, no family nearby, and now no colleagues either. She could call her parents but didn't want them to worry. She mused, well, if I don't have a job, I guess I had better put a resume together in case John doesn't take me back. She had just cracked her laptop to start on her resume when her phone rang. It wasn't anyone she was expecting. Curious, she answered, hello? Hi Monica, it's Donald Rodriguez. Do you have a minute? Of course, sir. What can I do for you? Then she thought, probably not much, since I just quit. He replied, how are you doing? She scoffed, well, under the circumstances, I'm holding up.
I'm in Austin now, trying to convince my husband, through his parents, to talk to me. I want to apologize again for any way that we may have contributed to your difficulties.
Truly, I didn't know. She said, thank you for that. It means more than you know.
However, I have to place my problems at my own feet.
I should have pushed back. I hope I'm not too late in seeing that.
I hope so, too. I couldn't say this at your office for what will be obvious in a moment, but I may have a way to help you, and you are in the right town for that.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure I'm following you, she said. Monica, we've historically worked with Wilcox Capital bankers in Austin.
We couldn't this time because he's so short-staffed at the moment, due to several people being let go or leaving.
Monica knew that was a huge understatement.
Mr. Wilcox cleaned house following that scandal that was in the papers for weeks last Halloween. It took a lot of courage and a willingness to lose clients and money over that decision. Also, it was taking time to rebuild his firm's reputation. Donald continued, even his outside consultants couldn't take on this project, which is why we decided to give your company a try.
Obviously, we think you did an excellent job.
I would try to hire you myself, but frankly, I prefer your working on the other side. Also, I know that Spencer is still looking for capable people to fill some of his openings. As you can imagine, that scandal has made some talented people apprehensive about working for him, which is too bad. He runs a fine organization. He just hired a few bad apples.
Monica wondered where this was going. Did he know Mr. Wilcox on a first-name basis?
What are you getting at, sir?
Would you be receptive to my giving Spencer a call on your behalf? I think you would be a real asset to his organization. The only loyalty I have to your company is you and your team.
You know there should be a few more bond offerings with my company over the next few years.
I think Spencer's hiring you would be a win-win for all of us.
He gets a great employee that will help him regain our business. I get a trusted partner at a firm I know and respect. And you, young lady, would get an employer that is known as family-friendly.
Maybe that could help your current situation.
She was shocked, speechless.
Monica? Are you still there?
I am, sir.
I don't know what to say.
Donald chuckled. Well, first, you can stop calling me sir, and start calling me Donald.
Second, I hope you say that I can call him. At a minimum, the two of you should talk. As I said, I believe it would be good for all of us. Thank you, sir. I mean, Donald.
Yes. Yes, I would appreciate that.
I'm glad to hear it. So, no rush in setting up a lunch meeting in San Antonio.
Depending on how things go, I hope we'll be having it in Austin.
Do you understand?
I do, and thank you.
She could hear the smile through the phone. It's been my pleasure. Now go get your husband back.
She couldn't help it, but she sniffed, I'm going to try, Donald.
Good luck, Monica. Call me if you need me.
Goodbye. She disconnected the call and thought, where the fuck has someone like that been for that last few years? She knew the answer to that, which was that she was holding on to her promotions and seniority so tightly that she wouldn't consider looking for another job. Clearly not one of her better decisions. As excited as she was about maybe landing in Austin with Wilcox, she resisted the urge to keep trying to call or text John, but it was hard. Around dinner time, her phone rang.
It was Beverly. Monica, can you have dinner with us tomorrow night? We'll all be here.
Of course, I can make it.
Beverly said, I'm glad. Any special requests?
What?
Oh, no, Beverly. Whatever is served will be fine. Would you like me to bring anything? Monica asked. Just your love for my son. Monica smiled, he'll always have that.
I know that, dear.
We'll see you tomorrow. 6 p.m. Bye-bye.
She would have preferred to have that conversation with her husband, but she would take what she could get. Dinner was on her own for the evening, so she left to get a bite to eat and returned to her hotel. She was excited at the prospect of talking to Mr. Wilcox and was determined to have her resume updated in case she had the opportunity. She hoped she would get that chance soon, since she was going to need a job. She was able to quickly use her existing LinkedIn profile plus add some recent responsibilities to bring everything up to date. If she were truly casting a wide net, she would pay someone to critique it, but she was hoping this would just be as a courtesy for a discussion with Mr. Wilcox. Hopefully. She worked past midnight to make it look perfect and would go in the morning to a local office store to have it printed on some nice paper. Then she would be ready. She checked her phone before she went to bed and could see a dozen replies from Linda. She would read those tomorrow. She could have slept in but didn't. She got up, found a nearby Staples, and printed her resume on some nice heavy resume paper. Then, she purchased a simple portfolio in which to carry it. As she was driving towards a snooze to eat some of her favorite French toast for breakfast, her phone rang from an unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Blake? Please hold for Mr. Wilcox. What? A few seconds later she heard a good morning, Monica. This is Spencer Wilcox. Do you have a few minutes? She loved his southern twang. She had one too, but his was much thicker, and she suspected he could dial it up or down as the occasion fit. Yes, Mr. Wilcox, I do. I appreciate your taking the time. Donald Rodriguez called me yesterday and told me that you and I should spend a few minutes talking. I know this is last minute and you may have things going on in town, but could I persuade you to join me for lunch today? I'd like that, sir. I'm mentally prepared to have a conversation with you, but I didn't bring anything formal with me to wear. Would it offend you terribly if we went to a place where I could wear jeans? Not at all. I prefer it that way. This can be a casual get-to-know-you lunch. How does that sound? Monica replied, that sounds quite nice. Where and what time works for you? Let's meet at Terry Black's. It's a good barbecue place, but they have other things as well. I'll have my admin text you the location. How about at noon? Noon it is. Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. I'm looking forward to our lunch. So am I. They disconnected the call and she thought, wow. Those two men move fast. She arrived several minutes early to the restaurant and scanned her texts from Linda. It was what she expected to see, which started with what? Let's be reasonable, but ended with, fine. You'll be sorry. She thought, well. One bridge thoroughly burnt. Let's hope Wilcox works out. When Spencer arrived, the introductions were easy, and the conversation started well. When she handed Wilcox her resume, he took a quick look at it and smiled. From what he had seen on LinkedIn and from the conversation he had with Donald, he didn't need to try to pick apart her work history. He could get what he needed from how she had approached the deal with Donald and how she ran her teams to know if she would be a good fit. He did appreciate her being prepared on such short notice, which showed him something. He also told her to call him Spencer. After 30 minutes of talking about work and the markets, he asked, so, Monica, what is it that you would like to get out of your next position? Honestly? I like my current level of responsibility. I like managing a good team. I even like my level of seniority. What I would appreciate the most is a manager that has and appreciates a good work-life balance. I've not had that for some time, and I allowed it to hurt my marriage. Also, I'm letting you know that I would like to have children one day, hopefully soon, so if that scares you off, then I'm telling you up front. I think those are the high points. Spencer leaned back and smiled. He liked her frankness. He had been hoping that she would be a good match. Now he was hopeful that she would come on board. Monica, I appreciate your laying that out for me. Donald had advised me that your family situation is, up in the air at the moment. He saw her snicker at that understatement of the obvious. He continued, however, you need to know that if you are expecting a typical 40-hour week, this position probably isn't for you. You are expected to keep a certain amount of office hours, but you could be on the phone some days at 6 a.m. or 11 p.m., or both on some days, but those are pretty rare. We have some people that you would inherit into your team, but we could hire a few more, and even afford to move one or two of your better people from San Antonio, should you choose to go that route.
Frankly, I expect you to get things done in the manner that you see fit. If the client requests are unreasonable, then come talk to me and we'll get that worked out. Donald already likes working with you, and if your coming on board secures his company's business returning to us, then that is already a big feather in your cap. You've accomplished a lot in your short career. Why don't we take the rocket boosters off of you for a while and let you settle into this position? I think you would like your team and would like working for us. You don't have to give me an answer today, but why don't we plan to talk in a week? I know there are a lot of little details to be worked out, but trust me, we can get those taken care of. She said, I'd like that, Spencer, and thank you. Well, if you come on board, I'll be thanking you. We are in rebuilding mode, and I hope you'll be a part of that. I think I would like that. They finished their lunch and said their goodbyes. It was what Monica needed. Then she wondered, okay, now how do I get my husband to take me back? At 6 p.m. she arrived at John's parents' house. She was greeted at the door by John's father, Jason, which was a disappointment. He gave her a big hug and told her that John was sitting on the patio, waiting for her. She could see Beverly working in the kitchen. His parents had always been so loving towards her. She didn't want to lose them, too. When she walked outside, John didn't rise to greet her. He was sitting at the patio table with a beer in front of him. Someone had poured a glass of red wine for her, which is what she preferred. At least someone was thinking about her. She started, I'm sorry, John. I don't want a divorce. He replied, you didn't want a husband, either. Did you? It seems to me, what you wanted, towards the end, was just your job plus a roommate with benefits. Though true, she still wanted to pick apart that statement, but she didn't want to start an argument. She went for a softer touch. I'm sorry I acted that way. I know you've given me lots of second chances, but can I beg you for just one more? What would be the point? He asked. The point is that we love each other and want to have a family together, soon. I know you still love me, or you wouldn't have ensured that I was taken care of after you left me on the ship. I bet it was even you that poured this glass of wine for me. She saw the edge of his mouth move at her saying that. Not quite a smirk or a smile, but close. He replied, I do love you. That's taken quite the hit over the last week, but I do love you. But as the saying goes, sometimes love isn't enough. She was about to speak when he spoke over her. Monica, how can we have a family when you aren't around? Can you imagine trying to go to obstetrician appointments with Linda hanging work over your head? She would probably want to be in the delivery room working on project details while you are in labor. She was about to respond to that, but he continued, the real issue is you're being absent from our marriage for most of the last several years. You would never treat a client the way you treated me. She hung her head because she knew that was true. I know. It's true that I haven't been a very good wife recently. I can be the wife you want. Do you want me to be a stay-at-home mom? I can. I would. He shook his head. No. That's not a good idea either. We've talked about that a long time ago, and it isn't something you would want to do. I would do it, if it would keep us together. He said, it wouldn't make sense to replace my being miserable with your being miserable, just for the sake of keeping us together. One of us would still miserable. She replied, we're both miserable right now. This was very true. He said, but in time, we'll heal. In time. What do you want from me, John, besides for me to go away? I won't accept that, yet. He looked at her and thought. What he had wanted for the last several days was to get away and start over. Being with her was killing him. Monica, I want the pain to go away. I want someone that wants to be with me as much as I want to be with them, and for her to be willing to say no to ensure that happens. Neither me nor our marriage has been a priority to you. How does that change? Having him tell her that was painful. She knew it was accurate, and it was all her fault, but hearing the man she loves tell her that he wasn't important enough to her was nearly fatal. She asked, would this make a difference? She opened her phone and the message stream between her and Linda, starting at I quit. He quickly read through them and asked, You've quit? Why?
You loved that job.
Never as much as I loved you. I just haven't shown you that for far too long. Neither of them said anything for a minute.
She continued, I may have a new job that would be more family friendly, but I'll not take it if it keeps us together. He shook his head. Monica, I didn't have a problem with the work you did.
I had a problem with how much you worked.
You could work at a convenience store, and if you want to be there more than you want to be with me, or if you are unwilling to tell them no from time to time, then nothing will change.
She asked, Is there any way to convince you that I've changed? I promise you, getting left on a boat in the Western Caribbean will get your attention.
He said, I do feel a little guilty about that, but I needed to get away.
Talking wasn't doing any good. I'm not sure that it's doing any good right now. Monica didn't want to force him into a corner. How do I convince you to give me one more chance? I don't know. I'm still hurt and angry. Honestly, even if I agreed to give you another chance, I don't want to be in the same apartment with you right now.
I still love you, but I hate the situation you've put us in.
I know. She thought for a second, what can I do? I've quit my job. I think I've found one that works better for us. I'm promising to put our family first.
I even told my prospective employer that I hope to have children soon, and he was okay with that. It's even here in Austin, so we and our kids would be near your parents.
Please tell me what you need for me to say or do. That was interesting. He asked, You quit yesterday and have a new job lined up by today? Here in Austin?
She smiled and said, For the first time in a long time, work was good yesterday.
Clearly it was.
John finished his bottle of beer and wished he had another.
He asked, If we agree to try one more time, what keeps us from landing right back here? More family-friendly can mean a lot of things.
If you will give me one more chance, I'm approaching this with the idea that we are going to have a family, soon. Give me a few weeks to get settled into the job, and I'll get home on a more normal time, and then I'll limit my work at home to a limited number of hours which we'll determine, together. Then, you and I will figure out how to begin working our schedules, with the idea that we'll have kids soon.
John was considering this. Monica added, One more thing.
If you need to get my attention, because I seem to be losing focus on what's important, I'll give you a safe word to use which will tell me that I'm slipping, and we need to talk. Use this word, and you will have my undivided attention. Are you saying that if we had this agreed upon word previously, we wouldn't be here now? Questioned John.
If I knew then what I know now?
Yes.
He asked, What's that word?
Andrea.
What? Why Andrea?
She replied, While the ship was sailing towards Miami, she and I had a good discussion about what I'm willing to do to get my husband back.
It was attention-getting. She was remembering the just-in-case comment. I see. He thought for a moment, I do love you, and only you. I hope you know that. She said, I know you do. Even though I haven't always shown it, I love you too. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you either. You know, we still have a lot of work in front of us. We need to find better ways to communicate.
She smiled. Leaving me on that ship and giving me divorce papers were quite communicative.
Let's make sure we never have to use those methods again. I promise. She hesitated and then asked, John, can you hold me, please? I desperately need that from you right now.
John walked over to his wife, pulled her from her chair, and wrapped his arms around her. She squeezed him back, was overcome with emotion, and began crying deep sobs. I was so afraid that I had lost you.
You are my rock.
The only reason I've climbed so high was because I always had a good base from which to start.
That base, or rock, was you. It's always been you.
He hugged her back, wishing they could have had this conversation a couple of weeks ago.
Shoo. It's okay. Let's just be there for each other going forward so that we don't end up back here. She would do that.
She knew she hadn't been much of a spouse for a long time, but she would from now on. She would keep her priorities straight. It had taken his leaving to get her attention, but she would not screw up again. Even though the marriage was saved, the next several weeks were not all roses and sunshine. While John did invite her to move out of her hotel and sleep in the bed with him that night, there was no sex for a month. John had already committed to a consulting engagement that would see him traveling for many weeks. Because of John's travel, on the nights that they did sleep in the same bed, it was just a scared couple clinging to each other hoping for a better future, which slowly came. He hadn't been in any hurry to find a place to live, because he planned on traveling with his job and would just spend the weekends with his parents, which they liked.
Monica's meeting with Spencer the following week went very well.
Spencer gave her a sign-on bonus, which made up for the bonus she lost when she quit working for Linda. She poached a couple of her old team from her previous company and rounded out her team at Wilcox, which she did like. The lunch date with Donald and his team did occur, but in Austin, with Spencer, who was very pleased to have regained a healthy piece of business and to have taken another step towards rebuilding his firm. With Austin's hot housing market, John's travel and her new job, it took them a while to find a place to live, which may have been the best thing for them.
Living with John's parents for a couple of months was a stabilizing presence in their life.
Once they found a house, Beverly helped to coordinate much of the move out of their San Antonio apartment and into their new home. She was thrilled to have the two of them back together and in the same city as her and her husband.
Unannounced, but expected, grandchildren had her eager with anticipation.
Finally, after John's consulting engagement ended and their new house was ready, he and Monica were ready to start the next phase of their life, where Monica's priority was their marriage. They prioritized dinner together every night and a date night at least once a week. They also visited with his parents often, since they were in the same town. As John reconnected with LD friends from where he grew up, Monica and John integrated into a new social structure with friends and families that had enough fun and activities that Monica was less focused on work, and more focused on her life outside of work. It was a good time for them, and less than a year after their move, they announced that they were expecting twins. They kept in touch, distantly, with the Suttons, who were happy they had worked things out. Even Andrea was pleased for them, hoping that her chat with Monica had helped her see the light. They never had to use the safe word, Andrea, thank goodness. Actually, they had to change it, because Andrea eventually landed in Austin, thanks to their help in matching her with someone they knew. A year after the twins were born, they decided to take another cruise, but in the Mediterranean, as Monica had mentioned. There was no laptop taken on that cruise, by either of them. It was simply a happy couple appreciating their place in life, and no longer letting anything but their family come first.